Hello everyone and welcome to the Dota 2 6.81b patch log analysis. This will be a short video because usually when IceFrog releases the BC DNE update logs, if necessary, they are just minor tweaks and minor changes that he needs to apply because he thinks that some things need to be balanced that kind of counteract the whole purpose of the particular patch note. So in this case, 6.81b is just a few balance changes to 6.81 that some people believe that broke the game or made some things not so balanced. So as you can see, the patch was released on the 2nd of June 2014, and they added some compendium changes, like adding some special effects to some of the immortal items that came with the compendium, and added some general items to the compendium. But really, I'm not focusing on that, as if you don't have a compendium, this doesn't matter anyway, and the compendium is only for TI4, and we're only here for the gameplay reasons mostly. And here are the hero changes. Apparently Ancient Apparition is getting another nerf. I feel that AA as a hero and Ancient Apparition as a support is a really strong hero in terms of the versatility that he has. He has, though it may be unreliable, let's assume, fine, Cold Feet is unreliable in the sense that the person can run out of the radius, but it's a damage over time stun, which stuns for a long duration when the time elapses. So that's a lot of burst damage in the early game and lockdown in the late game. Also, Ice Vortex, which is the skill getting nerfed right now, is AoE slow that reduces the unit's magic resistance. So right now they're changing the scaling of Ice Vortex, and it's a long distance spell, of course, and its slow has been reduced from 18, 22, 26 and 30% as the levels progress to 15, 20, 25 and 30. So as you can see, the buff only actually, the nerf is mostly at the early levels of Ice Vortex, levels 1 up to 3, but then level 4 Ice Vortex still does the same percentage slow. So in the late game, it's still the 30% movement speed slow as it was in the past, but in the early game, where AA can be quite dangerous if left unchecked as a support, it's not as potent, but it's only minor changes of 3, 2 and 1%, which really doesn't change that much. Moving on to Bat Rider, Sticky Napalm bonus damage is now halved against non-hero units. In the past, Bat Rider was an extremely strong mid-hero in the sense that he could dominate the other mid with Sticky Napalm by making them move slowly, take bonus damage, and slow their turn rate, making it harder for them to run away and get last hits and move slowly. So he could pretty much dominate you in that sense. If he didn't have a good escape and he stacked lots of Sticky Napalms on you, you'd be taking a lot of bonus damage from his spells, which is Firefly and Flame Break, which made for easy first blood. But now he had got nerfs to his base damage, so that last hitting as Bat Rider was quite difficult against someone who had higher base damage, so you'd need Sticky Napalm to supplement your last hitting potential in the mid lane or in a 1v1 matchup. Now he's halving the bonus damage that Sticky Napalm gives to Bat Rider when he's attacking non-hero units, which further hurts his last hitting potential in the lane, which makes him a weaker laner in a 1v1 matchup, which I understand, because as soon as Bat Rider gets a few core items up, for example a Blink Dagger, 4 Staff, Mask of Madness and some boots, he can easily blink in and put someone out of position instantly, and that person could get blown up, and that's the end of the fight for that person. The hero is still extremely strong, but if the hero has a good laning phase, he's that much more dangerous. So IceFrog is trying to eliminate Bat Rider's laning phase such that other teams can actually have a time to pull ahead and have an advantage over the Bat Rider before he gets his items. Bounty Hunter, Shadow Walk duration has been increased from 15, 20, 25, 30 to 20, 25, 30 and 35. So Shadow Walk is Bounty Hunter's invisibility spell. He casts the spell and he goes invis. He gains no bonus movement speed, but he gains bonus damage when you attack out of the invis. And of course you're invis, so you can't be seen without any detection like Sentry Wards, Dust of Appearance or a Gem of True Sight. So IceFrog is buffing Bounty Hunter because Bounty Hunter used to be a really good offlaner, a really good solo hero in the sense that he was survivable with invis, and he had a lot of burst damage with Jinada and Shuriken Toss. And then the whole point with this ulti, which is track, gives bonus gold when you kill someone who you have tracked. It will give you bonus gold, and it will give your team bonus gold if they assisted you in killing that person. But then Bounty Hunter kind of fell off because of this rise of being ready to fight as soon as possible. People are drafting more aggressive supports. People are buying more sentries, so it's really hard for Bounty Hunter to survive in a 1v3 situation, for example. So if by increasing his Shadow Walk, at least at lower levels, it will make him more elusive in terms of he will get more time invisible with the use of the same amount of mana as he did in the past. So he won't expend that much mana in lane, which would make his laning a little bit more easier. And of course his ganking will be more easier because there's more invis for a longer period of time, which means he's got a little bit more time to find that gank he's searching for. Doom Devour mana cost rescaled from 60, 50, 40, 30 to 60 at all levels. So in the past, Devour being the spell used to devour any creep to get bonus gold and an ability that creep has, the mana used to scale downwards. It would cost it 60 mana and end up at 30 mana at level 4, which meant that the more you leveled it up, the more bonus gold you got, but you used less mana, which was good. But now it's a flat 60 mana cost per each level, which means that Doom will technically have mana issues. But the problem is, I always said and always do buy a Soul Ring on Doom, which guarantees that even at 0 mana, if you cast your Soul Ring, you've got enough mana to actually cast your ultimate ability and maybe one other spell. So pretty much I believe that Soul Ring or Arcane Boots are now a must on Doom. I don't really like Arcane Boots. I think Soul Ring as an item is now a must on Doom. I honestly don't understand, especially for people who jungle as Doom. I do not personally understand why they do not get a Soul Ring, as it covers all the regen that's needed in the jungle, and also it covers all the mana cost that's needed as well. Because if you have a Soul Ring, you will always have mana to cast Scorched Earth, which will then heal your HP and deal damage to the creeps you're trying to kill in the jungle, which even applies to laning phase. If you have a Soul Ring, the Soul Ring will give you mana regeneration and HP regeneration, and when you use it, you have enough mana to use Scorched Earth, which would heal you, and you'll have enough mana to devour another creep. So I honestly don't know why. I personally am an advocate of Soul Ring on Doom. This nerf to Doom's mana requirements, I think, will make more people realize why I was correct about getting a Soul Ring on Doom. Drow Ranger Gust knockback duration increased from 0.5 units to 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, and 0.9. Gust is a rework of Drow's Silence, if you didn't know. Back in the day, Drow used to have an AoE silence where you'd cast it on an area and people in that area would get silenced. That's pretty much it. But then, after the rework Drow a couple of times, what ended up happening is that if any unit is within, I would believe, 300 AoE of Drow, she would lose her ultimate, which is a passive, which grants a bonus armor and bonus agility, making her very squishy and deal way less damage, as compared to if the opponent is away from Drow and she has this ultimate ability. So to change this, they reworked the silence such that whoever you silence, it's now a cone shape in front of Drow. She releases a gust like you breathing out right now in front of you, and it pushes units back and silences them. So now they've increased the pushback when you cast the somethings. If you've played Dragon Age or any other RPG, think of Cone of Cold, pretty much, which is like a forward cone of silence in this case, which will knock people back. So they go back even further. Earthshaker turn rate improved by from 0.6 to 0.9. So Earthshaker turns much better in the sense that the amount of time it takes for him to be facing one direction to face 90 degrees in either direction has been improved to the left or to the right, which should make preparing yourself to throw a fissure to block someone a little bit more easier. And Echo Slam's initial damage, Echo Search, Echo Damage AoE increased. So Echo Slam is his, how can I say, it's his ultimate ability, yes. And the AoE in which, the way it works is the more units are caught within an AoE, the more damage the slam will do as the vibrations go through the ground. So now since the AoE is bigger, you have more chances to catch more units within your ultimate, and when the bounces and the ripples occur from the ultimate, the search range is slightly bigger, so you should get more damage in a slightly bigger AoE than you did in the past. And of course, if you get an Aghanim Scepter, that's more damage as well. Elder Titan Echo Stomp damage rescaled from 80, 85, 90, 95 to 80, 90, 100, and 110. This, in the past, most people played Elder Titan, went for the 044 build, which is Max Astral Spirit and Max's Aura, such that you can reduce the enemy's base damage by a complete 100% and reduce all their magic resistance. So it made it such that you are able to deal lots of burst damage to high armor units and high magic resist units. So they nerfed the Astral Spirit after that because they realized that the damage was too good, it was too much, such that people couldn't really fight against it. So they nerfed it slightly. But then now I see Ice Rock is increasing the damage of Echo Stomp, which is his first ability, which stomps an area around yourself as Elder Titan and your spirit to deal damage and sleep units for 5 seconds. So that's a buff to that move. It does more damage, it helps it deal more damage even towards the later stages of the game. That extra 15 damage, it's not much, but it could be the difference between someone running away on 15 HP and someone actually dying due to the stomp or any other follow-up damage. Enigma's Midnight Pulse duration has been increased from 8 to 9. In the last 6.81 patch, they'd increased the AoE of Midnight Pulse. Midnight Pulse being the ability that Enigma uses to... it drains a certain percentage of HP per second of the people who are caught inside. So they increased the area of effect so that you could get more units into it, and the key thing you would like to do is throw a Midnight Pulse, then black hole people inside the pulse so that the pulse keeps on removing that said amount of HP, the percentage of HP, while they're in the black hole to deal more damage. So since the Midnight Pulse is lasting longer for how much? 9, 10, 11 for 3 seconds, then surely you get 3 seconds worth of more damage, which is good for Enigma in terms of just genuine damage dealing in the later stages of the game. And then Invoker, we have nerfs on Invoker. Forge Spirit's 33% magic resistance has been moved. In the past, people said that Forge Spirits were really strong in lane because they had higher armor, high damage, they dealt miners armor, and they had good magic resistance, right? So what they did is they removed the armor on the Forge Spirits to make them very susceptible to physical damage. But then I guess more people must have complained that or they must have seen that the Forge Spirits are still strong, and now they've removed their magic resistance as well to make them susceptible to magic damage. So for example, in lanes like Invoker versus, let me just think of one person who does a lot of physical damage, right? Invoker versus Kunkka, for example. Since the Forge Spirits had they removed their armor, Kunkka could do a lot of damage to the Forge Spirits with his cleave and just genuine right clicks to kill off the Forge Spirits a little bit faster, right? I'm not saying that he will instantly kill them, but he could kill them much more faster. But then now, since they had a lot of magic resistance, let's take a lane like Invoker versus Lina, for example. Lina does a lot of magic damage, and when she, for example, she'll throw a Dragon Slave out to clear a creep wave, the Forge Spirits wouldn't take that much damage from her main source of damage in lane, which is Dragon Slave or the Light Strike array. So now with this nerf to the Forge Spirits, people who do lots of magical damage to clear the creep wave during the laning phase will have more easier time killing the Forge Spirits. Cold Snap damage reworked from initial and secondary proc damage from 60 to 30 to 7 times quas level per proc. So what this meant is that in the past, Cold Snap was good in the early stages, and it was very good in the early stages, but not so good in the late stages, because in the early stages it was a set amount of damage, right, for the initial and secondary procs afterwards. So since it's flat damage, 60 and 30, these are not percentages, right? These are not percentages of damage. And in the early game, since people do small instances of damage and have small HP pools, that meant percentages in the early game are poor. So for example, if someone told you that you have 100 HP, right, and someone has an attack that would do 5% of your HP twice, right? So you take 5 damage and then you take 5% of 95 damage, right? 95 HP. So it's not that much. But if someone told you there's a spell that does 20 damage, right? Then you would know that that 20 damage is a lot of HP. It's 1/5 of your life. You know what I mean? So early game percentages are always poor, but in the late game, when someone has like 4,000 HP, then 5% becomes a lot. So in this case, Cold Snap becomes 7 times the quest level per proc. So the more quest levels you have equals more damage. In the early game, Invoker doesn't really want to get that many levels of quest, so Cold Snap will not do as much damage as it did in the past. And Deafening Blast Disarm is now dispelled when magic immunity is applied. What happened is Deafening Blast is exactly that. It's a forward blast that pushes units back, does damage, and disarms them, which means they cannot attack. So what would happen is that if you got disarmed before you popped any magic immunity like your BKB or Rage, that means you are disarmed before the BKB is applied, and you'll be disarmed in the initial phase of the BKB. Now, what this nerf means that if you get Deafening Blasted and you cast your BKB, that initial phase will instantly remove the disarm of the Deafening Blast. So overall, these are just genuine nerfs to Invoker from his laning phase to some aspects of him in the later stages of the game against BKB users. Juggernaut. Omni-slash damage per slash rescaled from 175, 250 to 200, 225. So damage per slash. So what would happen is that if Juggernaut cast his ultimate, there's the he slashes you once, twice, and so on until he stops slashing. So now what Ice Frog has done is that the first instance of damage, which was the 175, has been buffed to 200, but then the subsequential slices after that have been nerfed by 25 damage. So the initial hits and the initial levels of Omni-Slash do more damage, but then at the subsequential slices, it doesn't do that much to counteract. Due to, I don't know, how can I see it? I guess it's for the time. It's to give him better kill potential, I would believe, with level 1 ultimate, because the level 1 ultimate only jumps 3 times, I believe. So if the initial slice does a lot more damage, or 25 more damage, if you're using it to interrupt a TP, you get most of your damage in the beginning. And if, let's just say, someone uses Ghost Scepter stops physical damage, right? If you get the first slice off, you've done a chunk of damage already. You've done 200, not 175. And then they'll use Ghost Scepter, and all your subsequential slices don't matter anymore. But at least you've done a bit more damage on your initial slice. And his base attack time has been improved from 1.5 to 1.4, which makes him attack a little bit faster throughout all stages of the game. If you get more agility items, you attack faster. So overall buffs to Juggernaut and his damage. I don't know if this will make Juggernaut come back, but Juggernaut as a hero, I believe, is already a good hero. The hero doesn't need anything. I don't know why Ice Rock is giving him more tools to work with. Leshrac Pulse Nova, which is his ultimate's damage, has been increased from 6500, 144 to 80, 120, and 160. Scepter from 100, 150, 200, 200, 160 to 20. So this is more damage bonus to Leshrac's Pulse Nova, which does instances of damage continuously until you run out of mana or switch off the spell or get silenced. I don't think this is the problem, though. I think to bring back Leshrac, you would either need to remove some cast animation time in his spells to make him easier to land his spells, like his Stun, Split Earth, or you can make Edict do more damage or remove the cast animation on that, because it's really slow to cast all his spells, except for Pulse Nova, which is an insta-cast. And the problem with Pulse Nova is that it costs so much mana that it's really, if you do not have good mana regeneration as a Leshrac, and of which you don't really have that much farm as a support Leshrac, you just don't have mana to sustain this. You'd rather cast your other spells, you'll genuinely get more damage. So I think if they really wanted to buff Pulse Nova, they could have reduced the mana cost instead of increasing the damage. But in the later stages of the game, this buff will come into effect, but it's not a buff that will make Leshrac more viable, I believe. Lina's Light Strike Array stun duration increases from 0.6 to 0.6, scaling all the way to 0.9. So Light Strike Away is Lina's AoE stun that it has a cast animation. She does an animation, then the stun lands in an AoE to stun multiple units if caught in the AoE. So they used to be stunned for 0.6 seconds. Now that stun scales from 0.6 till 0.9 seconds. I don't believe this will change anything at all. The reason why I say this is because very few... Lina is usually played as a support. Part 1. Part 2, if you're playing Lina, usually what you want to do is max out all your damage spells before you put levels into your passive, which gives you more attack speed the more you cast spells, right? So it would make the kill potential easier if you could land a max damage stun, a max damage light strike, a max damage stun, which is your light strike array, and a max damage dragon slave, which is your nuke, and then you ult someone. Hopefully they should die or you deal a lot of damage. So the fact that the stun duration scales now upwards doesn't change the skill build that you would use on Lina. The skill build is still the same, but this is just a bonus 0.3 seconds of stun duration, which I don't think changes much. Lycan, more nerfs to Lycan. How duration has been decreased from 12 seconds to 10, and how bonus damage has been reduced from 20, 30, 40, 50 to 14, 26, 38, and 50. So you can see that the how is his active ability that you can use to give all your allies, all your summoned units, and yourself a bonus 50 damage at level 4, right? And all other levels before that have different values of bonus damage that you give. It's a global ability. So now Ice Frog really has been trying to nerf Lycan because Lycan has been seeing play. He's a really good pusher. So he's trying to reduce his push potential such that it's not ridiculously insane. So he's reduced the first 3 levels of Howl's bonus damage, but then the maximum 50 damage at the end is still the same. So in the late game, Howl still does the same amount of damage for 10 seconds. Even though, so it doesn't really do the same amount of damage because it's 2 seconds less if you look at it from that point of view. But in terms of just bonus damage for the first 10 seconds, it's still the same amount of damage. But then the 11th and 12th second don't exist anymore. So those 2 instances of damage, which is 100 damage, is gone. So he's nerfed it by 100 damage, 2 seconds, and the first 3 earlier levels. So overall nerfs to Lycan. Mirana Sacred Arrow mini-stun duration has been decreased from 0.5 seconds to 0.01 at minimum range. The max range is still 5 seconds. That doesn't change. So if you get a max range stun, a max range arrow, you still stun the person for 5 seconds, which still makes roaming Mirana still dangerous. But for example, in a 1v1 situation where you're just trying to throw a stun to get off a few more, because usually if you get a minimum range stun, you're just trying to kill them off fast or to get into 2 more right clicks in to try kill them. So that 0.5 seconds was enough to do that. But 0.01 seconds only means that you can disrupt channeling spells, you can disrupt TPs, you can disrupt things that can be disrupted, like I said, like channeling spells. But it's not enough for that person. It's like, try count 0.01 seconds right now. It's impossible for you to count it. So as soon as the arrow hits in 0.01 seconds, you'll be instantly able to move. But if you're channeling anything to try escape, you will be stunned and it will stop. And the minimum range stun duration the damage has been reduced by 40 damage. So maximum damage is still the same, but then the minimum damage has also been reduced. So this is just, I think this is just nerfing Mirana in a 1v1 situation, or in a 1v1 kill situation. The person has 0.49 seconds to react and run away now, and 40 damage has been reduced. So I don't know. I don't know if that will change anything really, but it will change some situations. Very, very few, but some. Ogre Magi, multicast passive mana cost penalty of Fire Blast reduced from... wait, hold on. Multicast passive mana cost penalty on Fire Blast reduced from 30, 70, 110 to 20, 40, 60. Bloodlust can now be cast on magic immune allies. These are 2 very good buffs to Ogre Magi, even though I think that Ogre Magi is really good. But the only problem I have with Ogre Magi right now is finding a decent lane partner and a decent lane to put him in. I just do not know where to put this hero. But besides those two problems, and I think, to be honest, those are the two problems why he's not even played professionally. You just don't know who to put him with, and in which situation to put him against, and in which lane. It's still theory crafting right now about this hero. But as a support, this guy has a lot of HP. He's got decent armor. He's got stuns. He's got slows. He's got attack modifiers and buffs you can give to your allies and yourselves. It's just amazing. Nuke potential. So they've reduced his mana cost on Fire Blast, so you can Fire Blast more. And Bloodlust can now be cast on magic immune allies. So in the past, what would happen is that if you put Bloodlust on someone and they used BKB, Bloodlust would go. If someone used BKB and they're attacking and you want to put Bloodlust on them, you can't do that either. So now you can actually do that. So now someone can get the attack modifier even in magic immunity, which is good. Omni Knight. Omni Knight's degen aura slow has been increased from 7, 14, 21, 28 to 10, 18, 26, 34. So the degen aura slow, which is Omni Knight's passive, now slows for a larger percentage. So the more Omni Knight stays chasing someone, or the more Omni Knight stays in the middle of a team fight, the more people are slow. This is good. But Omni Knight is suffering from the same Ogre Magi syndrome, which is Omni Knight is an excellent hero. But Omni Knight cannot function without farm. And Omni Knight, currently, right now, we do not know who to put him, which good lane partner to put him with, in which lane to put him in, and against which lane will he be most dominant. He's suffering from those same problems that Ogre Magi has. Okay, Phantom Assassin. Phantom Strike bonus attack speed increased from 100 to 130. I do not know why. Oh my god. Oh, oh my goodness. I don't know why Astra keeps on buffing Phantom Assassin, because she's lethal. He buffed the blur such that now at max level blur gives 50% evasion. 50 freaking percent evasion. Topped up on a 450% crit at level 16 and all her physical damage. This hero is getting more dangerous because now this 30 increase on attack speed means that you will attack more and have more chances to crit. And I honestly don't know why, because this hero does a lot of damage already. Right, let's get that out the window instantly. The hero does a lot of damage with farm. What this buff means, even though it's a minor buff, what this buff means is that this hero will do even more damage. Now, every time you Phantom Strike an opponent. So I don't understand why all the buffs. It's just patch after patch, Phantom Assassin's been getting buffed. And to me personally, I think this hero is getting scarier and scarier. I guess it's trying to... I guess there are most 3-star hard carries have been seen less and less play. People like Phantom Assassin, people like Medusa, people like Faceless Void have been seeing less and less. So I guess it's trying to buff them to a point of ridiculousness so that people have no choice but to pick them. But I don't think that's actually wise. I think that's quite stupid. It's imbalanced, I believe. Okay, Queen of Pain, Shadow Strike cast range has been increased from 435 to a scaling 450, 475, 500 and 525. Shadow Strike is Queen of Pain's dagger, I believe, which slows and does damage over time. Does a lot of damage over time, if maxed. Now this buff means that if I have a retard build I do on Queen of Pain, I by level 10 would have maxed dagger, maxed scream, have ulti and 1 blink. Right, so which means your blink range is minimum and the cooldown on the blink is large, but you do your maximum potential damage, right? So it puts you, if you don't blink into a right spot, it will put you in a bad place and you die. I agree that that's why the build is bad, but now with 525 distance on the dagger, with that skill build, you could potentially dagger someone from fog and they won't even know where you daggered them from. And then you can blink into a place you feel safe because the person should be confused as to where you are coming from in the first place. And then you scream an ulti and hopefully get the kill. So I think this is, if you do my skill build, which people frown upon, then this is a big buff. But if not, it's just, I don't know. In the late game, I guess, whenever you do have level 4 dagger, which would be it would have been way past its effective time, I believe. At least you'll be still able to dagger from fog. Ricky. Smokescreen cooldown reduced from 13 to 11. So here, what happens? Ricky can spam smokescreen more often, but Ricky has mana problems. So well, if you are spamming smokescreen in the first place, then you will run out of mana at some point in time. So this gives Ricky more teamfight presence. This means you can usually smokescreen twice in one teamfight now, which is good. But beyond that, it doesn't matter because Ricky usually goes to gank a single target. And if the gank fails, Ricky leaves. If the gank's successful, Ricky still leaves. So besides that, this is to help his teamfight presence. Skywrath Mage. Ancient Seal damage amplification has been increased from 18, 24, 30 to 36 till the new values, which are my God. What? Ancient Seal is Skywrath Mage's silence ability. It's a single target spell which amplifies damage, right? At its maximum level, which is level 4, it's used to amplify whatever spell you cast on that person by 36%. They've buffed that all the way to 45%. This means that your spells, if we consider magic resistance, will be doing bonus damage. They won't even be breaking even and doing pure damage if you land it on someone who's Ancient Seal. They'll be doing bonus damage. So if you can actually Ancient Seal someone and land a good ultimate on them, like actually get that duration off, chances are you're going to blow that person up. It's impossible sometimes because people run out, force staff out, Jewel Scepter, etc, BKB. But if someone can stun, then you Ancient Seal and ulti, chances are that person will be blown up. So I don't know, this is a good buff. I love this buff. It encourages some skill, but general, this is really good. I don't know. I have nothing else to say. Slatter's bash bonus damage has been increased from 40, 60, 80, 100 to 80, 60, 100, 120. So it's an extra 20 damage at all levels to Slatter's bash, which gives him more damage in the early stages of the game and in the late stages of the game, which is always welcome. Couple that up with his ultimate, which reduces armor. More bonus damage for Slatter. Every Slatter player right now should be happy. I believe they should be happy considering Sprint has 0 mana cost now. And you have more bonus damage on your bash. When you get that Blink Dagger, blink and slam in happiness. I think this is a good buff. It's okay. It's nothing too big, but it's enough to secure some kills, I believe. Treant Protector. Lich Seed damage per pulse has been decreased from 24, 36, 48, 60 to 15, 30, 45, 60. So the first 3 levels of Leech Seed has been reduced, especially level 1 Leech Seed has taken a big beating of a decrease of 9 damage per pulse, which adds up if you count the number of pulses, of course. So Treant Protector has seen a lot of play. He was picked, I think he was picked the most in the qualifiers. I think I got that prediction correct. He was picked a lot. He was the most picked and is the most versatile, one of the most versatile supports because he has a lot of HP. He deals a lot of damage in terms of physical right-click damage. Leech Seed is a good healing spell. His armor spell is a good healing spell. He's got a good AoE ultimate, and he's got Invis to scout you out. It's like the hero's okay. He's not amazing, but he's definitely a decent hero. So I guess they're seeing him as a threat and nerfing some of his abilities. Tusk Snowball cooldown reduced from 21 to 21, 2019 and 18. So 3 seconds less on the cooldown at max level, which, I don't know, doesn't change much. This, personally, I think 18 seconds is already too big a cooldown for it to match. I think this only matters in the laning phase in a tri-lane. That's when this would matter if you max Snowball. And Walrus Punch cooldown has been reduced from 30, 24, 18 to 25, 20, 15. Okay, now 15 seconds on an ultimate. Now that's big. If you have damage items on a Tusk, then you can ultimate twice every 30 seconds. So you can initiate a gank with a Walrus Punch and a gank with a Walrus Punch. You know what I mean? If you're into that. Like if you have a Shadow Blade, you can Walrus Punch, Shadow Blade, punch someone, Ice Shard, Snowball, hit, chase Walrus Punch to finish, you know what I mean? So it helps his ganking potential in this case, if you look at both skills combined. Undying Intelligence growth has been increased from 2 to 2.5. Undying is a really strong, I believe Undying is a really strong support in the sense that he's got an AoE nuke that steals people's strength and gives it to Undying, making Undying more tanky. He's got Soul Rip, which heals allies or does damage to enemy units based on the number of units around. Tombstone unleashes zombies that deal damage and slow people in a huge AoE, and it's got his flesh golem form which amplifies damage and etc and healing and all that stuff. But the problem with Undying is that after you cast a couple of spells, chances are you are flat out of mana. So this increase in strength in intelligence growth means that you should be able to use more spells. Undying had been nerfed a lot in the past because he was picked a lot in the past. So these few buffs could make Undying support, it could make a comeback, and I'll be happy. I've played a crap ton of Undying, and this hero's fun. But, I don't know, things have changed. He's fallen out of place. I personally feel he's fallen way out of place. It's just like when I think of mid lane heroes, like, for example, Dragon Knight, fallen out of place. It just doesn't suit the current meta of gameplay, I think. Windrunner, focus, fire, mana crossed. Oh, why am I saying mana crossed? Windrunner, focus, fire, mana cost has been decreased from 150 to 75, 100 and... Oh my word. The thing is, a lot of Windrunner is being played these days, or at least theory crafting on the hero. I play Windrunner as well, especially in the mid lane. Back in the past, you wouldn't get your ultimate because 150 mana is just way too much mana for Windrunner to actually sustain. Now, the fact that at level 1, the ultimate only costs 75 mana, chances are, I guarantee you'll be seeing way more level 6 ultimates on Windrunner now. Guaranteed. Way more. This will increase her damage because get a Maelstrom, you are attacking at the speed of light. That means you get more procs of your Maelstrom or whatever damage amplifier you have. So that's good. Lightning Bolt, Vision and True Sight duration has been increased from 3 to 4.5. And Lightning Bolt, search area of effect increased from 250 to 325. Lightning Bolt is Zeus's Lightning Bolt, and what they did is they changed it such that you can now cast it on the ground where there are even no units just to give vision. Because every time Zeus cast Lightning Bolt in the past on an enemy or neutral creep, lane creep, whatever, there's an area around it where you'd be given true sight of anything that's invis. So now you can cast it on the ground to scout forwards, etc. Now the duration of that has been increased. And the search area, the area around the place you cast the bolt where things are revealed, has been increased. So Zeus can be a solution for most invis things. Now, in terms of just scouting out invis, Zeus can be more good. He can save you mana on dust now. Zeus is becoming the new Sentry Ward, I believe. And I really like these changes. I feel that Zeus needs more buffs, but as a hero, I really love the hero. He's a good tempo controller in the mid lane. He can really set the pace of the game if played right in the right situation. But all in all, those are all the character changes. Thanks for listening to that. One more item change that's at the bottom here is that MJ, Mjolnir, which is the lightning hammer, used to have an active you could cast on yourself. Anyone who attacks you has a chance to get zapped by lightning, and everyone around him gets zapped by lightning. But this became too good because in the past the lightning zap would go in a cone in front of the person who has the buff, right? So anyone to his left, right, and behind him wouldn't get zapped. But then they changed that into a circle such that people around get zapped, which kind of started dealing too much damage. And I understand why it was a cone in the past, because if you made it zap everyone around you, and it has multiple chances to zap people, if you can tank a lot of damage, you will deal a crap load of damage. So now what they're doing is, the Lightning Bolt Vision, the recipe cost of the MJ is increased from 600 to 900, so it costs 300 more gold to make. And the static charge duration, which is the amount of time you can have that electric shield on yourself, has been reduced by 15 seconds. But the cooldown is still high. I think it should be at 30, somewhere around there. So now, the active ability will spend more time on cooldown than it did in the past, and it lasts a shorter period of time. So overall, nerfs to MJ, I think these nerfs were needed personally for this item, because you could get it on any carry and this thing would be extremely good. So now at least you might think about it before you buy it. But besides that, thanks for listening, guys. I will see you sometime in the future, I guess. Thanks for listening, and I'll check you out.